Welcome everybody to our live webinar where we're going to recap Right of Boom 2024, talk a little bit about cybersecurity trends, topics, the lessons that were learned. My name is Sean Edward. I am a partner account executive here at Field Effect. My role is, talking a lot with MSPs about their business challenges, the risk to their business from a cybersecurity perspective, and see if there's some alignment kind of in the problems that we solve here at Field Effect, and through our kind of holistic approach to cybersecurity. I'm joined by two fantastic guests and partners today, Aaron Zimmerman and Matthew Held. Aaron is from Total Care IT and Matthew is from Manawa. Gentlemen, I'll pass it off to you, starting with Aaron first, just to give a quick intro of yourself.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm Aaron Zimmerman, the owner and CEO of Total Care IT. Total Care IT is based in Boise, Idaho, and also on the east side of the state in Idaho Falls, Idaho. I've been in the IT industry for 31 years. Total Care IT is 17 years old this summer, and we focus on keeping our people working within our clients and securing our client base.
Thanks. And Matt?
Yeah, Matthew Held, CEO and founder of Manawa Networks. We're a managed IT and cybersecurity provider based out of the Greater Toronto area in Canada. Our real focus of our business is small and mid-size organizations. That would struggle to, I'm going to say, deliver the results that a larger team can do, just given their size. And in terms of background, we've been around for over 15 years, and I've been in the industry for over 25 years at this point. So,
awesome, gentlemen. I appreciate the quick introductions and thank you so much for joining me today. Before we kind of get into some of the topics that we have for today, want to quickly reflect on Right of Boom. Like first, from I guess my point of view, from a vendor point of view, and then see if you guys kind of agree with what I saw. Through a lot of the conversations that I had. The reoccurring theme was around kind of, community, education, an event that MSPs can attend to really gain some knowledge, about the current risks and threats, to their business and to their customer base, and how they could, potentially take some things back home to apply to their business. Is that what you guys were seeing as well? Matt, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think especially this year, they had a different cadence than they had in previous years. So there were both technical sessions, followed by business oriented sessions, and just really the way in which the structure was set up. It was really to bring awareness, I think, to both groups of individuals that are there. Combination of both those business leaders and business people, as well as the more technical. People, and just I'm going to say that sort of cross pollination of awareness in the different areas, that are impacted.
No, that's fair. And Aaron, would you agree? Anything you kind of want to add there?
Yeah, I agree. I really liked the format this year where it was technical business, because some of the people there on the technical side of the house, and they got to really see under the hood of some of these attacks. Others like myself are on the business side of the house, that I have a technical background, but I don't do that very much anymore. So I really much appreciated the business side of the conversation. As far as community, the MSP community as a whole is a very sharing community, if you will, and caring community. Matt and I see each other around all the time at different events. And we're always, bouncing ideas off of each other, sharing, wins, sharing vendors, and stuff like that. So yeah, from a community perspective, absolutely very, very deep inside of the ecosystem there.
Yeah, I even want to just jump in there and say that, Aaron, I really like the fact that you're talking about the community aspect. A number of the presenters, actively operate either MSPs or MSSPs, and they were happy to share content that, I would say would normally be behind closed walls and, or closed doors. And, they were putting it out there as resources for, all the attendees to look at. I mean, if I can think about, I don't know gentleman's name now at SnapTech IT, sharing his secure onboarding process and what they go through. I mean, typically not something that you would see publicized. out there.
I think that's why we're seeing Right of Boom scale the way it has, right? Like it's grown tremendously over the past few years, and obviously we're going to continue to see that. So big shout out to kind of Andrew and his team for doing what they're doing. Aaron, you brought up kind of a good point there. You talked about business, so I kind of want to. It's perfect to kind of segue to our first topic and talk about the business challenges that MSPs are currently facing today. I'll start with you. Like, what are you seeing as some of the business challenges currently today for emerging MSPs or more mature MSPs as well?
I'll talk from what I see inside of my business. First and foremost, and I hear this amongst my colleagues as well, and that's staffing. Finding local, qualified, available, staff that want to work, want to join a team, want to either be back in office or be part of the virtual part of the business. That's a challenge for a lot of us. That challenge is forcing many of us to look overseas, for good quality, staffing as well. And even if you look overseas, if you have an immediate need, it could be 6, 8, 9 weeks before you find, the appropriate person to bring into your team, to integrate into your team and your client base. So yeah, it's getting much more difficult, on the staffing side. The other thing that I would say from a business standpoint, outside of personnel, would be selling at the right price so that we're covering the new expenses that we have. There's so many new tools, so many new vendors, so many new aspects of security that have to be covered. I kind of make a joke sometimes in my initial discovery calls when I'm working with a new prospect that security isn't just installing Norton antivirus and calling it good, like maybe we did 15, 20 years ago. There's, upwards of 30 different areas that have to be, protected within your entire security program. And in order to execute on that, plus help them through compliance, which we'll talk about later, you have to make sure that you're going in at the right price and justifying and showing the value for that right price for that business prospect.
Great points. Matt, I'll kind of jump over to you before we kind of talk about navigating some of those challenges that Aaron brought up. Are you seeing the same things? Anything that you want to add to that?
Similar, but I mean, I think actually, one thing I wanted to parry off of what Aaron had said there, and this is actually, I thought, just a really succinct and great way of bringing this concept home. I think it was Brian Blakely who said that. It was, cybersecurity or security in general is not a tool you buy; it's a practice you instill. And it's really bringing that home to prospective clients and even existing clients, so they understand it's not just, you're not just installing a piece of software, you're not just doing one thing. It's, you have to take a much more holistic view, towards that. And I think, if some of the challenges that I think that we find, if I can talk about that, in our world is, because there are so many different aspects of, security and cybersecurity that we have to cover. And if you want to really be providing that defense in depth, for teams, that are operating in that manner, I'm going to say the amount of correlation between different tools, different platforms, being able to see where the risk is, that's a real challenge. So, being able to bring everything under one roof, or at least one platform, is, I'm going to say, key. We'll call it just simplification, for lack of a better term.
I like that word. To simplify as much as you possibly can. So, I'm curious, gentlemen, you talked about staffing issues. You talked about kind of, the over tooling. What did you kind of learn at Right of Boom that's helping you navigate through some of these challenges that you're facing as an MSP, and, kind of help some of the viewers here as well today? Matt, I'll pass it up to you first, maybe.
What do we learn? Well, I mean, it's, first off, there's no silver bullet. So if you're looking for that, just
you're in the wrong game.
stop your search, because there's no silver bullet for any of these. Now, there's some, tools and vendors that, do that better than others. So I would say that's, the one area. I think the one thing that I really pulled away from that as well too, and it actually came from the Verizon data breach incident report. And they were talking about the fact that like small and mid-sized business are now facing the same challenges that attacks that large enterprise are facing.
Yeah.
So we're all having to go after and protect our organizations and from the same types of threats that are coming down the pipe. And the fact that if you look at the the common elements, it's phishing, credential breach, and then vulnerabilities that are being exploited. So that's just that's where we have to focus our energy these days.
Yeah, I think it's important that everyone understands that it's not a matter of when. Like everyone's a target these days, right? Small, large, everyone is. Aaron, curious if you're anything that you want to add to things that you've learned or learned at Right of Boom that kind of help you navigate some of the challenges that you were talking about.
There was a lot. I'll first say that I agree. We try to take this mantra of no business left behind, so that we're protecting even the small businesses as best we can. There's more people in our space, and every single month there's more vendors coming into our space. Some of those vendors were in enterprise for a long time. They're coming down into the MSP space and kind of retooling, their offering to match with, what an MSP business model has to offer. That has its pros and cons. The biggest con is, more vendors, more tools, more expense. But the biggest pro for it is these vendors are able to do things for us, smaller MSPs, that we couldn't staff. I couldn't staff a full 24/7 SOC right now. But through my vendor selections, I'm able to do that. So now I can go to market with solutions that help these small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses, all of them. I think for me, one of the key areas that I've heard this in passing, but the way that the messaging was delivered at Right of Boom was speaking the right language to your client or your prospect. What is meant by that? Well, if I'm working with a medical facility and I'm picking up on the terminology that the prospect is using, like clinics and patients, I'm not going to refer to their business as a company. I'm not going to refer to it as a business. I'm not going to refer to it as a firm. I'm going to refer to it as a clinic. But CPAs are different. They refer to their business as a firm. If we can kind of clue in on these small language differences, then the prospect starts to feel like we understand their business better, and it starts to build trust between myself, my company, and the prospect a little bit quicker. Adding to that, I would say taking complex IT speak, acronyms, technical talk, and breaking that down to, again, the language that the prospect and the customer understands. I have found this year that I'm having better success if I don't go in talking tech talk, if I don't go in using these technical acronyms. I go in addressing the compliance or the security need. I go in, letting them know that there's, 30 different areas under cybersecurity and growing that have to be addressed. And our solution addresses, all of those areas or some of those areas, depending upon, what the client wants to invest in and what their risk tolerance is. If we're using too much tech jargon, if we're using too many acronyms, if we're creating that uncertainty and doubt, it becomes polarizing inside of the conversation. I don't want to create that. We're trying to create trust, and we're trying to create the aspect of, we know what we're doing. We're going to come in and help your organization. We're going to protect it. We're going to secure it. We're going to keep your people working.
So yeah, so basically, ensuring that you're showing your customer and or prospect that you're speaking to, you truly understand and know their business, right? And that it's easy to say this, but showing that you care, you're caring to understand explain to them, right? And I think this is a perfect segue. Sorry, Aaron, did you want to say something else there?
Oh, I was just gonna say, and in that process, you're learning about the client, you're learning about their business risks, you're learning about what keeps them up at night. And by doing that, and again, speaking their language, you're starting to relate with them and they're relating with you.
And so, Matt, I'm gonna shift it over to you. I'm curious to get your thoughts on what you think about when we talk about a business conversation versus a technical conversation, right? Like Aaron shared some thoughts there, which is really important. But like, I'm curious to kind of get your opinion there as well.
Thanks, Sean. I mean, like, I have to agree with Aaron.
Yeah.
The really what I've come to, prospects and existing customers when we talk about, if they need to improve their cyber posture and whatnot, it's really talking about business results and then the risk and how it's actually tying the technology to the actual business workflows and business processes. And, if there's risk that exists at, say, a technical level, it means that there's also risk at the business level as well too. And then talking about what that impact would be. So it's really, it's really steer clear of, I'm going to use the joke of the TLAs or the three-letter acronyms, and steer clear of the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I think a lot of, vendors will show up and they'll make, comments and try and be the boogeyman behind the screen and, and create this lack of ease, in the case of a prospect. And really, what a prospect cares about is they've got a business to run. They know that technology helps them, but they also understand that there's this risk. They just don't understand what that risk means. And It's really incumbent on us to be able to highlight what is that risk? What is that going to mean to the business? And what results do you need to get from your technology, right, to be able to support the business?
So you both were kind of laughing there and making jokes around, acronyms. I'm curious, what you guys were hearing at Right of Boom. What were the latest acronyms you might have heard? What were some of the new categories that you guys were, hearing around in your conversations at Right of Boom? Let's go to Aaron first.
I think the first one that I learned was FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you learned that.
PLA, the three-letter acronyms, those were new acronyms that I learned about acronyms, so to speak. As far as technical acronyms, I don't think that I don't recall like picking up on anything new from that standpoint. But in the business speak standpoint, these other two that Matt already mentioned are what stick out to me.
Gotcha. And Matt, same thing for you, or anything different that you heard at Right of Boom?
I'm going to say not on the way of acronyms specifically. I would say that there were some new vendors there that were taking, I'm going to say had some innovative approaches and in what they were doing, and the problems they were trying to solve. And I think, at a high level, I think that those problems are real. Whether those vendors have the right solution, I think is yet to be seen because they were quite young.
Right.
And coming in from a different, as Aaron said, from the enterprise space. So the number of organizations that have operated in enterprise and are trying to, move their way down into the MSP, MSSP space that are serving the small and mid-sized businesses.
Kind of want to switch gears here and talk about something that's, a hot topic, I guess I could say, which is security and compliance. So, what are you guys currently seeing when it comes to, compliance? How are you guys involving that within your conversations with prospects, with current customers? I'm curious kind of how that looks for you guys as MSPs. Matt, I'll kind of start with you and then we'll go to Aaron.
There's two camps of organizations that we deal with. Those that realize that they have those needs, right, and they're looking for a partner or they're looking for a way to solve for that. And then there are those that are only investigating it because it's being downloaded from either a customer of theirs or an organization that they're a member of, something to that effect. So I'll say, at least from the Canadian perspective, I think it's Aaron, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's FTC safeguards. We don't really have an identical sort of map in Canada to that effect, where there are those types of things that need to be and that type of compliance work that needs to be done. We are seeing more interest in it. it's something that I think people are being brought to do a little bit more begrudgingly, right? At least in the small and mid-sized business space.
Curious on your ends, Aaron, and especially I think because it's kind of, Matt's in Canada and it's not the same. I'm really curious from your perspective, Aaron, how you're leveraging kind of compliance discussions with your prospects as well.
Couple of different avenues on that. We definitely have more, I guess you could say, top-down regulations, I think, here in the United States versus Canada. We have clients and prospects that come to us that they're getting pushed down to them from the insurance carriers. Oh, you want a cyber insurance policy? Do you meet these 15, 20, 30 plus, things that you need to put a green checkbox on? And then when they know that they don't, they come to, a company like ours, and we can help them navigate that. If they're an existing client, we can let them know, well, here are the areas that are covered, and here's the areas that you need to address according to this document. Another thing that's been kind of new or newer since last year are the FTC safeguards that came down from the Federal Trade Commissions that address entities that fall under kind of holding on to personal information, like what a CPA tax firm does or an auto dealership, as an example. So that regulation states, there's 9 bullet points that basically says, you have to have an overarching security program. So my education out to prospects and clients is they don't mean software. They mean an institutional program that covers everything from the technical side to the administrative side to the training side to the reporting side, and it's a journey. It's not a destination. It's always continuously going. So what I've been seeing in some what I would call 10 to 20 user size environments that are mostly cloud-based, if not all cloud-based. So they may have a lower IT support need that they're perceiving, but they know they have a security need and they know they have a compliance need. So that's opened the door for us to sell them on a managed security and a managed compliance solution without per se the traditional IT support need. We have several of those clients, and they're all virtual. They're all, their employees are distributed. Everything they do is cloud-based, but we're still getting good rates to deliver on managed security and managed compliance. I know CPA firms, as an example, starting this year when they go to renew, I forget the name of their kind of license, if you will, with the IRS, but when they're filing for that number to renew it, they have to file their incident response plan. Well, if they don't have one and they don't know how to create one, they're going to come to companies like ours. So these are some of the doors that are being opened in our industry to be able to help out with, both protection, and additional sales.
And are they willing to, adopt easily? Is there a lot of pushback, or they're just, coming to you basically because they have to, right? Like now it is a requirement. I'm just curious what their level of education is, and are they pushing back when you're trying to tell them and explain to them, what the services you provide from a security and compliance perspective?
I think if I get a pushback in this particular context, it's, well, we're all virtual. Everything we use is out of the clouds. We've got younger staff. We don't need IT support.
Right.
I get pushback on that. But they know they need the managed security. They know they need the compliance. Some prospects push back on everything, and those are the ones that you just politely walk away from because they're not a good fit. There's another IT guy, probably operates his business out of a truck, and he will serve them to the capacity that they're willing to invest in their own business. But that's not the type of businesses that Matt and I run. So we really try to focus on those prospects and clients that understand the need to invest in proper support, security, compliance inside their organizations.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Aaron. So listen, guys, we talked about a bunch of different things today. Business risk, customer risk, We talked a little bit about some of the challenges that MSPs are facing when it comes to staffing, not being able to have like a SOC in-house. I'm curious and kind of want to bring this all full circle. With everything that we've discussed today, how have you guys seen, Field Effect being able to help you both within your business today and solve some of those critical problems for your business? I'll go to Matt first for this one, and then we'll jump over to Aaron.
Yeah, what can I say about Field Effect and our experience? I mean, it's been a great experience, and in terms of the challenges it's been solving, it's really been about bringing together a number of different aspects of security under one roof and one pane of glass. And then with the arrow, the structure of arrows, it's made it easy for our team, which in some cases are they're technologists, but they might not be seasoned security analysts. But for them to be able to actually take a look at an arrow, get context, have a sense of what the next step should be if they don't know, and also a path to get help should they need it, by escalating to the Field Effect team. So I mean, really, it's more visibility, one pane of glass, and just I don't want to I'm going to joke when I say this, but it's really been like the easy button relative to taking a whole bunch of tools, trying to bring them all together, monitor them all in a cohesive way, and then have support.
I love the easy button and trying to just make it as simple as possible for your team to be able to manage and deliver a service. Aaron, kind of, what are your thoughts there as well?
Well, I would definitely agree that it's contributed to an easier button. It has also uncovered some various things inside of our client base, that we were not aware of because the other tools weren't necessarily alerting on it, or maybe there was a misconfiguration. We found a misconfiguration in our RMM tool because of an arrow, and again, a Field Effect arrow is the alert, if you will, that is telling you here's an action that needs to happen. Here's the recommendation in our observation. And, we found that there was a misconfiguration that nobody knew about because where we had Windows updates and Windows patching working, there was a misconfig on moving from the 20H2 to the 21H2 version of Windows. So 20H2 was getting patched, but the big version upgrade wasn't applying. Well, we got some arrows on that, and it allowed us to dig in. So it's helping us find vulnerabilities from that ongoing vulnerability scanning that we were unaware of. It's also allowed us to expand on our third-party patching because, again, that vulnerability scanning is helping us find out in that client base, applications that were missed for whatever reason on the third-party side. Also, it makes us feel like we're not just waiting for a compromise. We're being able to be much more proactive and able to reinforce our environments before there is a compromise.
I definitely appreciate you both kind of giving your perspectives there. As we kind of bring this all to a close, I'm curious if there's anything else that you guys wanted to add, from your experience of Right of Boom. Obviously, we covered a number of topics today, but want to see if there's anything you wanted to add in addition to some of the things that we talked about.
Well, I actually just wanted to add on to what Aaron was saying there, about just the cross-check that we get with having Field Effect in place with all the rest of our processes from, say, centralized services or our NOC team. It's really reassuring to make sure that we've got an out of band or, I'm going to say arm's length, tool or, platform that's doing those cross checks to make sure that those patches are happening, to make sure that the vulnerabilities have been addressed and whatnot. Because I'm going to say that's one of the biggest fears that you've got in the MSP space is, yeah, it says you're patching, but did the patches actually apply?
And are they actually did you miss anything?
I'm not going to name any RMMs in particular, but like they've all had their issues over time, with respect to even just operating system patching, where there's one RMM that would say that you're patched because the patch was deployed. but did it actually apply successfully? So you'd see, oh yeah, I've got 100% patching. And then all of a sudden, after all the reboots came by, anybody that didn't get that patch appropriately, you'd move your number back down. I'd rather know about that, at a much earlier stage. And the same thing goes for, third-party software and whatnot. And even software, if you're finding software that exists in an environment that, shouldn't actually be there, and there's a vulnerability associated with it. As much as you want to create standardization and whatnot, depending on the organization and where they are in their maturity of their, I'm going to say tech stack and their technical operations, you're going to find that I'm going to call it shadow IT. So it's just, again, that cross check that makes it really handy.
Where that easy button helps out is, again, back at that service desk or the security side of your service desk, because the way that Field Effect is presenting it to my staff, it's in plain English. Here's the problem. This is what it means. And here's the recommendation that we have for you to fix it. And if you need any help, here's a button that you can click, to get support on this. That has been a huge difference, for our team.
Well, I love that, you both seem to be extremely happy partners of Field Effect. I really appreciate both of your inputs. If anyone wants to continue the conversation with anyone here at Field Effect, please feel free to reach out. It's just letschat@fieldeffect.com. Matt, Aaron, I want to say, a massive thank you to you both for joining me today. It's been great having a great conversation with you, and look forward to kind of chatting with you guys a little bit later. We'll wrap up for today.
Wonderful chatting with you guys.
Thanks so much, Sean.
All right, guys. Thanks very much. Bye now.